Talking Mission. So we're a little bit tight here, so I'm just going to kind of squeeze in here a little bit. And I'm talking with Keith and Maya, and they're from an organization called RED. Is that correct? Yeah, I got it right. They work down in Tijuana, Mexico. But before we get to there, we're going to kind of go through some of the backstory. So welcome to Talking Missions, and welcome to Talking Missions.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate being here.
How did you? First of all, let's go with the fun story. How did you guys meet?
Yeah, how did we meet, Maya? Go ahead, tell them the story.
Okay, he was working in an orphanage foundation for his ministry.
Okay.
So I was one of the lost children living with my parents.
Okay.
And he needed a wheelchair.
Her dad needed a wheelchair.
My dad and somebody sent me to the ministry. They have a clinic and they can loan me a wheelchair. And he was the guy in charge of the clinic. So the short version is I went out with a wheelchair and
I was in it. You know, she took me. So that
kind of.
Embellishing the story.
There was a connection.
Yeah. That is cool. That is cool. So that's how you met. And what city was that in?
I was in Colonia Vicente Guerrero. It's about 2 hours south of Ensenada, 4 hours south of the border.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's kind of cool. So then, now you were telling me, so should we move up to the story where you had the depression?
Sure.
Or do you want to tell something before that?
Well, just to backdrop, I met Maya. I've been in Mexico for 30 years.
Okay.
And after Maya and I met, we were with Youth with a Mission, and then we were doing church planting. We helped start another organization in mainland Mexico. And long story short, we had started a church in a tourist area, had a lot of Canadians, Mexicans there, and we're just going through just a really difficult time, and our leadership, we had a conflict with our leadership.
Okay.
And long story short, we were asked to leave.
Okay.
And so I was 54 years old, and that was really the tipping point that brought me to really deep political depression, and I was suicidal. And it was a very tough time for ourselves and our family. And so Maya, one of her nephews, was a psychiatric nurse in Tijuana. So we basically left the tourist area in Mexico and basically fled for our lives. I was so bad, and I thought I was going to be interned into this hospital. That's how we got to that's just the starting point of how we got to Tijuana, how God got us to Tijuana.
Right.
Mental hospital.
Mental hospital.
Right. Well, that's kind of interesting. That's now it must have been double hard because everybody thinks Christians aren't allowed to be depressed. They're not allowed to have struggles.
Yeah, you know, when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane and he was with his disciples, he said to them, "My soul is troubled unto death. Please stay with me." And you look at Jeremiah, and depression is in the Bible.
Yeah.
And it's not a level of our spirituality or non-spirituality. Jesus felt so bad that he wanted to die.
Okay.
And that's my take on that, you know. And so he understands. He's a man acquainted with sorrows and our griefs. And so that's a part in the church we really sometimes don't focus on or understand, but it's part of being a believer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a real thing. It's a real deal.
Yeah. So now you said you were struggling with or suffering for about 10 years with that?
No? It was actually no. I had never been depressed. I'd never had any struggle. And I thank God. But it was about a year and a half.
A year and a half.
Yes.
Okay. So scratch. Don't remember the other part I said. I'm not trying to throw things into that.
Yeah. Okay. Look at me. I'm depressed, right?
So now a year and a half with that, and you said you came back to Canada for a season. Is that correct?
Just before, I was still in the depression. I was being treated by a really good psychiatrist.
Okay.
And I didn't think I was going to come out of it, but really, she did a change in a medication, which was basically, for me, it was miraculous. For me. That's how we came to Canada, had a wonderful time, went to Banff. Actually, it was Strathcona Christian Academy that actually brought us up. There's so many wonderful people, just really blessed us and helped us. I couldn't have gotten out of depression without the body of Christ, her family, my family, friends, ministry, the people that I thought were my friends, my close friends that helped me weren't there. But the people that rose up, our families and other ministries were the ones that really took us
People you
in.
never met before?
Well, yeah, a few. Yeah, some of them were. Yeah, just new relationships. Like, here in Canada.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool.
yeah, very wonderful. Yeah.
Before we go further, what would your advice be to somebody going through something similar to you?
Well, I would, first of all, sometimes you're in a church environment or a culture, there's a stigma attached to that.
Right.
And so get out of it, because there's nothing wrong and there's nothing sinful about having depression.
Right.
It's a real thing, and some people are born with the tendency, or it can happen because of traumatic situations. So that has nothing to do with you being a child of God or anything like that. If you had diabetes, you would take insulin. If you needed surgery, you would have it. And so there's this sometimes this taboo about psychiatric medicine, but it's just for me personally, there are cases that people do need an antidepressant to help get through, or for whatever. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but I know that for me it helped me,
Right.
and I know it's helped other people, and whatever it takes, and without the stigma, let's just love people and get them the help they need.
After that, you were saying that you actually had breast cancer.
Yes, it was a few months after he recuperated.
Yes.
Suddenly, I just went for my normal test, the report was I had cancer.
Right.
And seems like the trial we were finally above the thing, and then went through cancer, and that really put me in a position in my heart to made me think a lot. I pray for so many people, and put me in the point like, why cannot believe for myself?
Right.
I start praying, and for many days I felt like hopeless. Hopeless, thinking I feel like my days were
numbered. She thought she was going to make
Scary.
it. It's a scary thing. You see the big C, it's a scary thing.
But God, He crosses through this older situation,
Right.
and I can say that two situations really equip us.
Yes, they equipped us for ministry. Absolutely.
You were sharing that earlier. So tell us about how these experiences really been helpful for you in ministry.
What I can say in my case, just being in the streets in Zona Norte in Tijuana, and I went through surgery and everything, and I came back with kids to the streets. So suddenly I realized, you know what? I saw the guys, the ladies in the sidewalk with their heads down, and for the first time I connect with them. I said, I know what they're feeling. They feel hopeless. They cannot believe. They need somebody believing with them and for them. So my situation really helped me to connect with them. Many realities of the gospel really were real after that, to minister to these people in the streets.
How about for yourself?
I came from a situation that maybe in the church world or church culture, I had I don't even like using this word, but it was successful, right? I mean, a bilingual, bicultural church, and economically doing quite well, and it planted like 6 different ministries in 6 years. To go to the point where you're in front of a mental hospital and think, how did I get here? What happened to me? But it made me realize, we're all so fragile. Yeah. And it's so helpful because, our worth is not determined by our titles or what we accomplish or what we do. When God saves us, we're children of God. Yeah. And so when I look at anybody, first of all, it just removes all the judgmentalism. How could they be mentally ill? How could they be depressed? I used to think that way. How could they be depressed? And I go, now I know how they could be depressed. So it just removes a lot of your own personal prejudices, and makes you not be so quick to judge whether it's a street person, whether it's another culture, whether it's someone with difficulty in their sexual identification or whatever. It's like, I'm not here to judge people. There's a reason. There's a reason behind that, whether behavioral or situation. And so it's just given me more compassion and made me think there's a story behind that person's life.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. So now how did all this lead you to Tijuana? And then share a bit about what you guys are doing in Tijuana.
Well, we kind of inherited a nonprofit that was the nonprofit at the point that we received it wasn't doing super well, and we realized after kind of working that ministry for 6 months that we weren't going to be able to be the ones to keep it going. It was a feeding program, but because we had food and there was a bunch of Haitian refugees in Tijuana, and they were trying to get into the States, what had happened was they thought, at that time was the elections, they thought that the Democratic Party was going to win, and that they could cross the border. Well, then the other person, I forgot his name, but he won the election, and basically the border was closed, so we started feeding the Haitians in Zona Norte. And we went to a situation where there were shelters that were designed for 30 people that had 300 people. And but at that point, when we were there, and the Mexican government was deciding what to do with the Haitians, they eventually integrated them into the society. My wife saw another dynamic. Why don't you share about that, the dynamic that you saw?
Yeah, when we went to visit some of the shelters, we realized that in that area of Tijuana, there were so many kids that they were not Haitians, Mexican kids, children of the prostitutes of the area there. And in one day, I wrote like 12 names under different circumstances, no birth certificate or whatever, they were not registered, so no school for them. It's when we start thinking, you know what, maybe we can start something for the children. And so doing feeding program for the Haitians and other people, we start adding the kids from the area, and then the ministry start, extending to other.
That's how it expanded.
Yes.
Now you're there.
Yeah.
So tell us about Red.
Red. Red. Mexico Red is the name of our organization. Red in Spanish means either net, like Fishers of Men net, network, but the initials are an acronym for our values. Relationships, our relationship with God and people, evangelism, and discipleship. Red, R-E-D. So, So, that's what we're all about. We have good relationships with the body of Christ, with other people, share the gospel, and make followers of Jesus,
So can you share us a testimony of something that's been coming out of what you're doing lately?
Yeah, why don't you share a little bit about Pina?
Okay. So being there in that area of Tijuana, it's like the inside eyes inside the area, and we start looking and seeing kids that sometimes they show up and sometimes no. So we start going in the hallways of the place, in the little halls, in the little place. So we found out this girl, 4 years old, that sometimes came to our program with one guy, next day with another lady, next day with another guy. So we found out that she was living in this alley. You said that,
with
a lot of addicts and mom.
It was a heroin den in a ghetto.
So the girl was, trying to help her own mom, and mom was pretty much out of her mind. And other friends of her were taking this little girl to our program. So the time came when finally the mom came and she told us, "Hey, I'm ready for a rehab. Could you take care of my daughter?" So we tried to write something, in between us for 3 months, if we can take care of Josefina. And so the mom was in agreement with that. Passing the weeks, Josefina was with us for a couple of weeks, and somebody else relative of the mom appeared in the area. So we were trying to know what to do, the next steps with Josefina. So just putting the story short, Josefina ending being with this older sister.
Okay.
And the mom, passing the months, she died. So Josefina now is in a safe place. She's in the school.
Wow.
She's in a healthy girl.
Yes.
And just it's totally a rescue, a miracle for the life of this girl.
Praise God.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear that kind of
Yes,
thing,
it is.
I know it's a hard, I'm sure. So you are actually working right now in the Tijuana, kind of the Skid Row you were kind of saying.
Yes.
Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, Zona Norte, you can go on Wikipedia, put in Zona Norte, and you'll find out that it is, it's considered one of the largest sex trade cities or areas in North America. And so it's right across the border. And so besides all the sex trafficking that's, or the industry, we call it, most deported people from the U.S. that have no family will end up in Zona Norte, where there's a tremendous amount of substance abuse, mostly crystal meth and heroin, because drugs are cheap in Zona Norte. And so, I mean, you never know what's going to happen there. I mean, one day last year, well, it was about a year ago, last November, there were 7,000 Honduran refugees in Zona Norte that completely flooded the area. And it was raining, it was also flooded. And they were displaced. We had hundreds in front of our feeding center, so we helped with that. But just our usual day in, day out ministry, we feed about 100 street people. Our school, it's a government-approved school, and in our school we have children from, a lot of them are from South America and Central America, along with Mexican kids. It's a transition school. Most of the kids are there for about a couple of months before they're either integrated into a Mexican school or they're trying to get political asylum into the U.S. So, but that's our time where we share the gospel with these kids, with their family. Usually it's mothers. There's usually not too many fathers. Every once in a while there's an entire family, but it's usually single moms with kids. And it's just a tremendous opportunity because they're not going to school. They're in the worst area in Tijuana, and it's their refuge. It's their place where they're loved, and we feed them and we educate them. So
can people somehow partner up with you, like work with you or visit with you? What opportunities are for their people?
Absolutely, yes. So we do receive short-term teams. We actually have the story about Pina. There was a team from Salmon Arm with us. Church team was with us, and they helped us rescue Pina. And so we receive teams usually for about a week. We like to do smaller teams, about 15. Right now we have a team of 20 with us, which is a lot for us. But and just we have people that come over from the border from like California for one day and just do a feeding, or they'll do a little short, small project. It could be electrical or painting or things like that, or do a vision clinic, do reading glasses. We do wound cleaning for heroin addicts, things like that. If anyone wants to do something like that, there's a lot of ways to minister, just tutoring kids or music.
Yeah, it will be good if young kids, after high school, have a summer, or 3 months of their lives can be very helpful to receive volunteers, and they can be living in the house that we have for hospitality and groups. And
so there's lots of opportunities.
There are, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so all people got to do is get a hold of your website. I guess I should get back in the picture. I've been kind of going in and out. That's all right. But so there's lots of opportunities. So go ahead to their website. What's the name of the website again?
It's www.mxred.org.
Okay, it will also be, we'll try to give it with the show notes. And I just want to thank you guys for coming on by and sharing your story. It's kind of exciting, actually. I like it.
It is, God's doing
the
amazing
ups
things.
and downs, if anybody ever has a life that's just all up, I'd like to meet them. So but that's good, that challenge. So I appreciate you sharing. So if you like the story, you like these things, please do that whole subscribe thing, the thumbs up thing, share it with your friends, all those kind of things. We really appreciate that. And remember, be on mission, live on purpose. That's what these people are doing. You got an opportunity to do that. You know, give them a contact, give them a call, or email, or smoke signals, whatever your choice is. You just make it happen, and trust me, I guarantee your life will be changed.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, yes.
All right.
God bless you.
So, blessings to you. We'll catch you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Amen. Amen.